In this video, I'm going to share 5 spiritual autobiographies that can truly change your life, and they had one by one a big impact on my own life, so I hope that you enjoy reading them. All the books that I will mention in this video are very different, so please keep watching till the end. And let's start with the first book, and that is The Surrender Experiment from Michael A. Singer. And this is such a beautiful and extraordinary story, and it's an experiment that he made actually out of his life, and he called it the Surrender Experiment. And he surrendered to the flow of life, and he gave up all his preferences. And in this book you start that he first has this awakening moment where he sees that he is not his thoughts, and he can really become the awareness observing the thoughts. And then he tries to shut his voice down, or actually his mind down, by only meditating, doing Zen meditations. But after some time he finds out that this doesn't work, and he says, okay, I'm going to surrender to the flow of life. I'm going to give up all my preferences, and then I see where life brings me. And it's so beautiful because first he is in the woods and he's by himself, and then over the time he builds up there this spiritual community, and first he meditates, but then life brings him to become a teacher and building up actually an incredibly big company. And what I learned from this book is that we don't always have to control things with our mind, and it became so much more clear. And what he actually says is, like, we have all these billions of years of evolution behind us, and life knows very well what it does. So when you let go, still things will work out without you having to control it. And I see in my own life that this book influenced me quite a lot in surrendering more in what comes, and it does make life in a certain way easier. But saying that, it is not, what he does is not easy, because he has to give up his preferences, and also he doesn't listen anymore to what his mind is telling. And I think this is a very extraordinary thing. So the first book is The Surrender Experiment. The second book is an autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda. And this book truly changed the way I look at life. And I also find it one of the best spiritual books that is out there. But I do have to be honest that if you just start with your spiritual practices, I would recommend to first read a couple of other books, because this book goes very deep in the spiritual language, and also it really challenges your mind. But this book is just amazing. And it's about Yogananda, and Yogananda brought Kriya Yoga to the Western world and to America. And actually he was one of the first people bringing yoga to America. And in the book you see him growing up in India, and him finding his teacher there, and him living in a ashram. And then he's sent by his teacher to America to teach yoga. And you see then what all happens in America. And for me, this was such a mind-blowing book, because it really changed my view on the connection between us here on Earth and the universe, and just the spiritual world, I would say. And I have the feeling that this book has not only had that influence on my own life, but on the life of a lot of people. And Yogananda has had a huge influence in the Western world. And that's why I put it on the second place. And it's just an amazing book. So The Autobiography of a Yogi. The third book is Into the Magic Shop from James R. Dotty. And I still remember so good that I was incredibly touched by the story. He grows up in a very poor and abusive family, and is insecure and thinks that he has no chances in life. But then one day he walks into this little magic shop, and the mother of the owner asks him if she can teach him real magic, so that he can just make anything out of his life. And he feels love, doesn't believe her, but says yes. And then he comes there for a month. And one of the things that she says is first, you first have to listen to your heart and then start using these practices. But he doesn't do that. He thinks, okay, what do I want? And that's success and money. And he learns in all these practices actually to manifest, to attract things in his life. And he becomes very successful. He becomes a neurosurgeon, very rich. But in the end, he also becomes to the point where he starts following his heart. And it's an amazing and very touching story. And I find it so funny because he says himself that it's not a spiritual book, but I find it an incredibly spiritual story and an incredibly spiritual, beautiful book where you can get a lot of lessons out. So Into the Magic Shop, it's a real recommendation. The fourth book is from Elizabeth Gilbert and is Eat, Pray, Love. And this book was a real joy to read. It was so easy readable and at the same time full of wisdom and spiritual lessons. And it's about Elizabeth going through a divorce, and then she chooses to go to 3 different countries to do 3 different things. So first she goes to Italy to learn Italian and to eat and drink nice things. After that she goes to India to meditate in an ashram. And as last thing she goes to Indonesia, to Bali, to learn from a natural doctor. And I find it beautiful to see how her process is through this entire, I think it's a year, from actually a certain insecurity to really getting into a full power again. And already the Italian part is beautiful, but then in that ashram there happen such amazing things, how she's overcoming herself, and also one moment an experience that she just becomes one with the universe. And then in the last part in Bali, it's beautiful to see how she interacts there with this doctor and finds also again love and opens up again. So a beautiful story. Eat, Pray, Love. The last book is Tuesdays with Morrie. And this book also deeply touched my heart. And it is the story about Professor Morrie that makes a study out of the last 3 months of his life. And it is written by one of his former students, Mitch, Albom. And it is so beautiful to see how these two interact. And Mitch was actually a very high performing businessman. And then he sees that his former professor is going to die, and he goes there and they meet every Tuesday. And it shows how Morrie deals with this situation and actually never complains and makes a study out of it. And he says, I think one of the times, if you learn to die, you really learn to live. And he shows that in those last 3 months. And it goes in all these topics, how to handle with compassion, with love, with other people. And for me, it gave a lot of lessons how to live a more fulfilled life. So it is a very beautiful book. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you will enjoy these books as much as I did. If you have any other recommendations, please write them in the comments below. If you liked the video, please like my video because it will then rank higher and also reach other people. Write a comment or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you an amazing day.